You're listening to the Empowered Divorce Podcast, where you practice being the chooser in your life again, one day at a time. Thanks for joining me. Hello, my amazing, beautiful listeners. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking the time. Before we get into today's topic, I just wanted to briefly mention some people have reached out and asked me about this. So the next Dating from Within workshop, I have not set the date for that just yet. There are a couple big family events coming up this summer that I am not entirely sure when my available weekend is going to be, but that's okay. Go over to amiewoolsey.com, click Dating from Within, and you can enter your email for the interest list. That way, when I do have a date for that set, you will get an email and I will let you know the weekend that we are going to be doing the next Dating from Within workshop. I highly recommend this for those of you that are really wanting to learn how to date yourself and heal and what healing actually looks like before you get into another relationship. Yes, we talk about dating again, but that is the last day of the workshop. The bulk of it really is talking about you and loving you and healing you and what that looks like and why it is so critical, so critical before you jump into dating. All my tips and tricks, you don't want to miss it. So be on the lookout for that. But if you're like me and your brain is going to forget, then head over to my website, get on that interest list because I will send you an email when the date of that workshop has been set. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that if you are wanting to coach with me, if you're wanting to get some support, as well as feeling supported by other people, where it's not a support group per se, but you're getting support from others that have experienced betrayal, trauma, abuse, and some of them have experienced divorce as well. My Believing in You group membership is designed to give you all the things. It is incredible. The group of women in there are remarkable. Every Wednesday night we get together, we do some coaching. I teach something at the beginning of every session. And whether it's worksheets or meditations or journal prompts, there's always something that I am offering to help you take your healing to that next level. There really is a level of healing that comes in a collective where you are holding that safe space for other people to heal. But what I will say oftentimes with group coaching is that you're going to get double coached. Not only will you get coached from me one-on-one, but when you are watching another human brain get coached, you will see things in your own brain that you would not have seen before. In fact, literally just last week, we were coaching and I'd already coached this one client. I was on to the next client coaching. And after that client got done, the previous client was like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that. That was so helpful. So you're really getting like a double dose in so many ways. It's funny because actually the thing that I see that challenges human brains the most is that they are showing up every week. And oftentimes they'll notice that their brain will show up and be like, well, I don't have anything to work on. I don't have anything to get coached around. I'm doing fine. Everything's fine. I really don't feel like there's anything. And then sure enough, they start talking, they start sharing. And I'm like, I'm noticing something. Can I show you what I'm noticing? And lo and behold, we have something to coach around. The power also of having someone watch your human brain. We cannot see into our own brains, which is why I always will do my own work because there are things that I can't see. So having someone point that out helps me in that first pillar of healing that I always talk about, which is awareness. The 3 pillars of healing that if you've been listening to me for any period of time is the awareness, acceptance, and then agency, then our choice, then the doing. So often we want to do something to get out of whatever situation or circumstance that we're not really loving at the moment. But unless we are aware of what our brain is telling us, what different parts are telling us, and leaning into that acceptance without judgment, shame, or blame, then we are able to step into what I call our agent power mode, where we can access choice, where we can do the something, make that next right step, whatever that looks like at the time. But often I see so many of my clients trying to jump into the doing, but they're missing those first 2 steps. And so coaching helps with that first step, awareness. seeing more into our brain. There's so many layers to us as humans. There's so many layers to our trauma, to our healing. We can find the joy in healing when we start to uncover some of these layers and really start doing the deeper work, where it's not so much about the person who injured us, but we're getting to that deeper layer of these limiting beliefs and seeing ourselves in a completely different way. If we don't challenge our brain, if we don't challenge the things that are keeping us stuck, then we will stay stuck. If this is speaking to you, if you feel like you've been looking for that next thing to help push you, to help get you unstuck, or you maybe are feeling plateaued, then I really want to recommend checking out this membership. Go over to amiewoolsey.com, click on Believing in You, check it out, maybe even book a consultation with me, and I can help better determine if this is a good fit for you or not. Now, one of the ways that I oftentimes see my clients get stuck is in what we call the Karpman Drama Triangle. This is a social model of human interaction, how we interact with other humans. We oftentimes fall into one of these three categories. And if we're not aware, then we get stuck in this triangle, just ping-ponging back and forth in our relationships. Many of you, when you hear me go through this today, might notice the dynamic of this drama triangle in your previous relationship. Maybe there's some of you who are dating right now. You're going to recognize how you might be showing up, you and your partner, in this triangle. Also, what I'm really going to focus on today is how you might still be showing up in this drama triangle with your ex. I know that most of you really want to break away from that. Today's episode is going to be centered around the Karpman Drama Triangle. So, like with many episodes that I share, please use this episode in that first pillar of healing, okay? Awareness. Do not judge yourself if you, through this episode, find yourself relating to one of or more or all of these different styles that I'm going to be talking about today. Please, 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 judgment does not belong in this conversation today. This is merely for you to become more aware. I say this many times, especially if I'm using the word victim. And so one of the three drama points of this triangle is victim. I'm just going to remind all of you, you have been victimized, but you do not need to stay in victim mode. We don't want to identify with victim, but we don't realize that we might be staying in the victim mode despite our victimization. So I just want to be clear with that. If you find that you're relating to the victim mode or these dynamics or behaviors, please have compassion for yourself. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. All of this information I'm sharing today is so that you can be the creator of your life, that you can step out of this triangle, that you can start to thrive. We can't do different if we don't know what we're actually doing. That's really the point of this episode today, is to help those of you who haven't heard of this or aren't aware of how you might show up in a relationship or the relationship with your ex, that when we know better, we do better. So the three roles, meaning how we show up in the relationship, again, I think I'm really going to focus on the relationship with your ex that still might be happening, is victim, persecutor, and rescuer. I'm going to say those again. The 3 points of that drama triangle are victim, persecutor, and rescuer. Now, victim is often it's so unfair, or I have no control, I can't, I'll never. And when you have been victimized, so betrayal, trauma, and abuse, we can get stuck in this mindset. We can get stuck with limiting beliefs, still feeling victimized, where we can think, you ruined me, you ruined my life. This isn't what I had planned. This isn't what I signed up for. I didn't choose this. I'll never have hope. I'll never have love. I'll always be alone. Those are victim thoughts. Again, this victim role in this drama triangle is very much helpless. Poor me, I give up, I'm not okay, and everybody else is okay. So being able to step out of this role and ask myself, how can I get what I really want in a healthy way, rather than needing this other person to give that to me? Ask yourself, maybe we'll do some self-reflecting. Ask yourself right now, Where do I feel powerless? And where do I actually have control? Persecutor is that it's all your fault. This is where we are shifting blame to the other person. And this is where we might feel such a lack of control that we need to be all in control. The persecutor in the drama triangle, when they are in this mode, the person doesn't value other people's views. They don't value integrity. So their persecutor is going to be angry, rageful, whether it's open rage or passive aggressive type of anger. That aggression is going to also be part of the persecutor role. Very judgmental, maybe a little bullying, demanding, spiteful, scornful. Those are descriptions of what the role of a persecutor will take on in this drama triangle. Persecutor is focusing on the other person in the relationship and putting all blame, trying to control that other person. The third one is rescuer. This is the fixer. So those of you who relate to the fixer, you might be showing up as a rescuer. Oftentimes, this is where we feel obligated to soothe things over, be the peacemaker, step into that, quote, Christ-like role, avoid conflict. The rescuer in this drama triangle is in this mode where the person doesn't value other people's capacity to help themselves. They don't believe that other people can do the things. Those of you who have experienced betrayal trauma, which I think is all of my listeners, you might very well pull up the memory bank and remember when you were in this role of rescuer in your relationship. I see this a lot. I absolutely lived here so well, where I truly did not believe that my partner had the ability or capability to like learn or do, like even make an appointment to the therapist because I would make up excuses. He's so busy or this or this or that. It's this idea that other people are limited in some way to take care of themselves. And therefore, we need to be the one to take care of them. That is the role of a rescuer. It's tricky because it can come across, a rescuer can come across as being very self-sacrificing, almost take it the role on like it's something noble, but really they're over helpful, very facilitative. They're going to organize everything, make sure everything's taken care of. Rescuers like to be needed. They're very prone to meddling unnecessarily. So those of you who are divorced, you and your ex has moved on, you might find yourself very meddly over what's going on in that new relationship or in that house. This role can keep you stuck because ultimately it is not empowered. Oftentimes the rescuer can be manipulated by the ex, and because the manipulator is acting helpless. And so then the fixer, the rescuer, jumps in, giving the ex one more chance, so to speak. So those are the three different points of that triangle. I'm going to go back to victim and give a couple examples because I think sometimes it's really hard to identify when we might be showing up this way. Hopefully some of these resonate. You don't judge yourself, but you can use this as an opportunity to be aware of like, oh, that's why I might find myself going around and around in circles with my ex still and not feeling like I can drop the rope or still feeling like in some ways I'm attached in these unhealthy ways. We might be showing up in this drama triangle. So the victim role, again, this is unfair. I have no control. My ex controls everything. I have no say. I'm stuck dealing with all this financial mess and there's nothing I can do about it. Thoughts like he manipulated me for so long and now I'm just too broken to rebuild my life, or he gets away with everything in court. Everyone is believing him. I have no power. I see this one a lot. Feeling very powerless in the court system, which is easy to do because the court system is not fair, but we don't want to get stuck in the it's not fair. That I really want to make that point. Just because the reality, especially in court, is it's not fair, we can acknowledge it, but we don't want to stay stuck there. That's really the key here. When we are bringing this type of energy and still showing up with our ex in this energy, we can get stuck. Now, where the ex in their role can play into the victim is they act like the victim in the divorce, right? Where they're the ones that betrayed, they're the ones that created the relationship injury. They are the ones that perhaps did not repair, are still not accountable, and yet they are still playing the role of the victim, saying that you are ruining their life in some way, or you are turning the kids against them. I see this oftentimes with those who have exes that have a lot of those narcissistic tendencies and traits, characteristics, where they are in absolute denial. They are not going to be accountable for any of the choices that led to the divorce. And they are the ones playing the role of the victim. You took everything from me. I have nothing now. I can't survive without you. You have to help me. I've shared this story before where, because I'm the one that actually filed the divorce, despite the fact that the injury was my ex for so long during that divorce process. I swear there wasn't a day that went by that he didn't remind me that it was my fault that we were divorcing, that I'm the one that filed, that I'm the one that's causing the harm to the kids, that it's my fault. He's the victim. I'm the persecutor in his story at this point, right? And there was one day that he came to my door and he cornered me and he was coming at me with that nasty finger, driving it into my chest, blaming me again that it was my fault. And for whatever reason, it finally clicked. I was like, wait a second. Yes, I did file, and I filed for a damn good reason. And at that point, that drama triangle that had been happening for so long, where he was a persecutor and I was the victim, and also playing the role of the rescuer because he would throw the kids in there. And I felt like I needed to explain myself and fix the problem that he was making and presenting to me as the problem. So I was like bouncing between both roles. But at that moment, when that drama triangle was happening, I had that beautiful aha moment. And I was like, wait a second. Yes, I did. Yes, I did choose to divorce you. And here's all the reasons why. And I stepped out of that drama triangle. I stepped into my choice, my power, and it shut that down. No longer did that drama triangle happen around me, me being the one to choose divorce. Hell yes, I did. When we are in the victim role of this drama triangle, the mode that we're in is a person that doesn't value ourself and defers to external things or other people, maybe the other person in this drama triangle, to determine that sense of value. When we are in victim mode in this drama triangle, we can actually be manipulative. We can get stuck in the poor me syndrome. We feel helpless. We feel needy. We might complain, whine, worry about things that really don't need our attention or to be worried about. We're very, what's that word? Like downtrodden is kind of the image that I'm getting with this role of victim. We're very much blamey around other people too when we are in victim role. Because again, I can't, I'll never, I have to, I won't. Those types of thoughts or beliefs are going to preface this victim role. Okay. So that's just an example of how victim will show up both ways, because I absolutely played it on the other way, right? It was, you did this. I didn't choose this. You're the one that had the affair. You're the one, right? I absolutely was in that victim role just as much. And at some point, I needed to step out of that as well. I'm going to talk more about that later. But the persecutor, this is the blaming the other person when we're in this drama triangle. If he would have just changed, my life would have been fine. How many of you might be stuck there? Really just still holding on to this idea that all they had to do was change. All they had to do was be accountable. All they had to do was repair. All they had to do. Then I would not be in this situation. I wouldn't be a single mom. I wouldn't be working my fingers to the bone. I wouldn't be miserable. I wouldn't be having to move. I wouldn't, whatever that is, if they would have just, whatever that is, if they would have just changed. So we're putting our current situation and all of the negative feelings that we are experiencing on the other person. I also see this show up as they're a terrible father, and I need to make sure that the kids know this truth. When we are in this blaming, it's all their fault mode, then we tend to bring our children into this as well. Another way I see this show up is I'm going to make sure that he suffers like I did. Gosh, I lived in there for some time. This is where I really want to validate too, because the kind of divorce that you're having is so different from normal divorces. And many of you are in this space where you are not getting closure because you don't have full disclosure. You don't have the truth of what happened. And there's no accountability. There's no ownership to the injury in that relationship. This lack of justice can really keep us stuck in the role of persecutor, a victim too, but persecutor, where we want to inflict justice, especially when court is not going to give full justice to our quote standard, when we have been so deeply wounded by betrayal and abuse that we want the other person to hurt. And this also shows up too, like I remember he moved on so quickly and, quote, seemed so happy. Yeah, lasted a year, but it seemed like he was so happy and moved on. And here I am just living in this tiny apartment, grappling with my reality, still wondering what the hell went wrong. And it was like salt to the wound, right? And I absolutely remember being in this role of persecutor where I wanted him to suffer because I felt like I was suffering. And here he is moving on, going on with his life. And I am still paying the consequences and dealing with the consequences of all of his actions. And so I remember absolutely getting stuck here as well. I also can relate to the idea of having to be really aggressive, especially in court, to make sure that we're not taken advantage of. Sometimes we can get stuck in the persecutor role, especially those of you who experienced a lot of abuse in that relationship, because what I see happen as well is as you are getting more and more awareness and putting a language to the abusive behaviors that happened in your relationship, then those of you who are experiencing post-divorce abuse, like that language, that awareness takes time. And the more you become aware of it, you are going to, rightly so, have the emotions that accompany it. So the anger, the rage, that sense of injustice oftentimes escalates after divorce because you're starting to wake up. You're starting all of that reality fragmentation, right? Those pieces of the puzzle are coming together more and more. And you're like, oh my gosh, I was gaslit this whole time. Oh my gosh, I was manipulated. Oh my goodness, I was coerced into having sex. That really wasn't complete choice. Or, wow, that's not what consent really is. When you start to recognize how you lived in that relationship and what really happened, then I see so many times women will get into this persecutor role. Here's the problem is that we think that if the other person hurts or gets punished in some way, then we will feel better. And it's not true. I know it feels really, really true. Believe me, because I lived there for a while. It feels really, really true that if they hurt just as much, then we will feel better. But it doesn't work that way. There's that balance again of being able to validate your emotions and feel them, not dismiss them, but feel them, process them, and heal them without being in the persecutor role and believing that if you could just whatever to the other person, then you would feel better. This sometimes is more subconscious than we realize, but it is happening. Okay, the way that this gets flipped is if your ex is the persecutor and now you are being judged the horrible mother, you're ruining your kids' lives, you're just bitter and trying to punish, and you're selfish and not giving me another chance, and I'll make you regret divorcing me, or using legal battles or finances to weaponize and control you. A lot of those legal threats. That is often how the other person will show up as persecutor trying to victimize you. Okay, the last one is rescuer. Now, this is the fixer. I have to fix this. This is where I will oftentimes see that I feel bad. I feel bad for them. Maybe I should just agree to what he wants. Or not even I feel bad for them, but in order to avoid conflict, I'll just agree. I'll just, whatever, forget the boundary, forget the parenting plan. Don't want to deal with conflict. I don't want to deal with the consequences of him being mad. So I'll just do whatever, right? We're trying to fix their emotional response one way or another. This is the role of the rescuer. I often see this show up too, where, well, I don't want my kids to suffer, so I'll just smooth things over with him. We're believing that for the sake of the kids, if we just constantly fix, then that will just make everything better. And that doesn't work long term either. I will say this to clients oftentimes because, again, I've learned the hard way. The more you try to prevent your children from seeing the reality of who your ex is, the longer it takes them to work through their own reality collapse and fragmentation. And as they're trying to put the pieces of their puzzles together, when you are trying to fix and jump in and smooth things over, you're prolonging their own individual work. They have their own individual work to do as well. You can't rescue and fix your kids. I can relate to this, which is why I can speak to this. Long term, it does not help. I remember being the rescuer in the relationship with my ex also by, well, maybe if I just explain it differently or write the text differently, then maybe he'll get it. And I would spend an embarrassing amount of time on a text message to try and explain myself. Again, I'm trying to rescue his emotional response. I'm trying to rescue myself from his emotional response, trying to placate, trying to pacify, soothe, and smooth. It doesn't work long term. It's not sustainable. And you are still in this drama triangle when we're doing this. Another way I see this show up is, well, if I don't help him, then he's going to struggle. And then that's not fair to the kids. So I might as well just help him because I don't want the kids to suffer. Again, a little twisty the way that our brain tries to rationalize this. We are still in the drama triangle. I had a client who was really stuck with this. And the way this showed up was her ex was not buying anything for the kids. So when he had them at his place, he would have her set just about everything on her front porch so that he could, like, bikes and toys and clothes and all the things, right? Because he didn't want to pay for a whole new set of stuff at his house. Well, the problem was that she couldn't really, like, send the kids off and, like, do her thing or get on with her life. She was feeling very tied to the house even because it was, well, what if he calls and he forgets something? What if the kids need to come back and get something? I need to stick around. She wasn't really giving herself and feeling a sense of freedom to do other things, to, my gosh, leave the house, because he was constantly texting and calling and saying, hey, we need to come back to the house and get this, or hey, can you bring this to me? Again, we've got this tie happening, this connection happening, this drama happening. We had to work through what that was going to feel like to say, no, I'm not available all weekend while you have the kids to be at your beck and call to give you all the things that they need for my house. You need to go buy your own things and they need to have their own things at your house. We have really had to coach through that rescuer part of her that just kept saying, well, it's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to the kids. Listen, divorce isn't fair for you. It's not going to be fair to the kids. We cannot also be in a drama triangle with our children and keep rescuing them as well, because then that makes them the victim. And we cannot make our children the victim to our story, to the other partner's story. And we don't want them to be a victim in their own story. When we rescue them, it inadvertently and subconsciously teaches them that they are the victim. How can we empower? By not rescuing and not fixing and not trying to protect our kids from their, quote, awful dad. Okay, so let's just take some circumstances here. Let's say that he's late picking up the kids again. All right. If you show up in victim, then your response would be, well, I have no choice but to wait and let him walk all over me, right? He's late. I have to wait. I have no choice. Persecutor would be, I am going to make him pay for this. He does not deserve time with those kids. Rescuer would be, I'll just drop him off myself so that there's no drama. Right? So he's late. I'll just drop him off. Okay. If he's showing up as victim, then and he's late, it's traffic was awful. It's not my fault. Persecutor he's like, you're just too rigid with the schedule. Just lighten up. Those are different ways that you both would be showing up in that drama triangle. Okay, so what does an empowered divorce look like? An empowered response if he is late to dropping off or picking up the kids. Well, the parenting plan states the pickup time. If you're late again, I'll wait 15 minutes and then I'm going to make other arrangements. That's a boundary. Here you are setting a boundary and you are not blaming. Okay, another situation. Kids are complaining about their dad. All right. So if I'm in victim mode, I'm going to be like, well, there's nothing I can do. I hate that they have to deal with this. I hate that you have to deal with this, kids. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing we can do. Okay. That would be victim. If I was showing up in persecutor and the kids are complaining about dad, I know he'd be a terrible parent. I know I have to step in. Even if I'm not saying this out loud to the kids, this is my belief. This was my thought. He's an awful parent. He can't parent. I have to step in, which then shoots me into rescuer, which is I have to step in and I have to fix. Or, well, I'll just have to talk to him for the kids so that the kids don't have to talk to him and share their concerns. Okay. That's how I would show up. Maybe you can relate to that. Now, how an ex would show up if kids are complaining about them. Kids don't respect me. It's all your fault. That would be victim. Persecutor. You're turning them against me. That is how you and your ex are going to bounce back and forth in that drama triangle. So what would an empowered divorce powder response look like here? Your kids are complaining about their dad. I hear that you're struggling with your dad. It's totally okay to have those feelings. What do you need from me? Notice how we're also not getting involved in that triangulation between kids and dad. I know that there are so many nuances that can play into this. Most importantly, I wanted to just identify for you what those different roles in the drama triangle are, how to recognize when they're happening real time so that you can simply just self-check and practice and pause and ask yourself, what role am I stepping into right now? What is another way for me to respond? And where is my agency in this situation? Because healing means stepping out of the drama and into self-awareness and self-empowerment. It takes time, but every time you step out of the triangle, you're taking your power back. We can create boundaries for ourselves, boundaries for this new person, and really just practice believing that his choices are his own and my healing is mine, because your peace is way more important than proving a point. And the best way to win any battle, if you are stuck in persecutor, is to refuse to fight it. Viktor Frankl says freedom is found in a space between reaction and response. That is really what I'm hoping that you walk away with today, is being able to recognize how we are going to, if we are showing up in one of these three roles, rather than react in one of these three roles, we respond. When we respond, we feel freedom. We access our freedom. I cannot stress this enough, how important it is to step into your own sense of empowerment. The analogy that I've used over and over of dropping the rope, letting go of the rope that's tied between you or your ex is so important, especially those of you who are dating or are in another relationship. If you are still showing up in the drama triangle with your ex, you really want to look at this. It is not going to be beneficial to your current relationship if you're still showing up this way in your previous relationship. So hopefully this episode helps. As always, you do not use this episode against yourself, but only to help empower you. You really don't have to attend to every battle, every argument that your ex invites you to. taking charge of the experience that you want to have is absolutely possible when you step into your own power, because you are the chooser in your life and you are the one that gets to create the experience in the life that you want, because you can. Take care, everybody.
I was born to fly and spread these wings and find my own. I am coming home. Today will be the day, it all will change. Nothing, no one's in my way. Today will be the day. Today will be the day. I was made to dream that anything can be my own. I have found my home. Today will be the day, it all will change. Nothing, no one's in my way. Today will be the day.